The Queens of Spice podcast is created for adult audiences only. Our show contains cursing, vulgar content, dark humor, descriptions of sexual acts and desires, and is not suitable for listeners under the age of 18. Some episodes also contain themes which may be triggering for listeners. Please take care of yourself.
Stick your tongue in my butthole.
Welcome to the Queens of Spice podcast. I'm here with my two BFFs, Ash and Jack. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello, Rachel.
Welcome to the Father's Day episode. Happy Father's Day to whom it applies to.
Happy Father's Day, Daddies.
Happy Father's Day, Ashton. You're like a dad. We are reading Deal Maker by Lily Morton. And this is like the dad book because there's two dads. There's two guys who become... Anyway, let's get into it.
Jesus Christ.
Sometimes your mouth makes deals that your heart can't honor. Jude is a highly successful model, but a very reluctant one. His life is full of casual hookups with pretty men in glamorous locations, but it's still empty. However, circumstances decreed a long time ago that this was his path, so he's resolutely stayed on it and accepted his fate with good grace. He made a deal with himself and his hookups. Get in, get out, no ties with anyone. However, an accident at home one night leads him to making a new deal and accepting the offer of help from an unlikely source. It leads to an unexpected summer of falling in love with a larger-than-life man and his child. But by the end of the summer, his reasons for not staying are still valid. Will he turn away? Can he? Asa is a talented actor who has spent time away from the scene to look after his son. But now he's back, and the last thing he needs are complications from the gorgeous man who is staying with him. Scarred from too many betrayals, he has no intention of forming a lasting tie with anyone. However, he can't resist the beautiful man with secrets, and to his horror, he develops feelings. But a deal's a deal, and they said it was just for the summer. What can Asa do with a man who has forever in his eyes and goodbye on his lips? So welcome to Dealmaker. We are introduced to Jude right off the bat. When
Hey, Jude.
when a tub falls through the ceiling of his apartment and lands beside his bed and floods his entire apartment. And so he wakes up in a start, of course, next to Dean, who he's casual hookup guy with. And Dean's like a fucking vapid stoner model, like just airhead character. And just like no frame of reference for anything. And it's insane. And the way Lily Morton writes Dean is like, I know this person. You know what I'm saying? I've met somebody like this before in my life. And it's just like, it's too real. It's way too real. It's just like the emptiness and like there's no...
It's the carelessness that gets me. Like when
but he's also empathetic somehow,
Yeah.
but not really.
he's endearing, he's like stunned and yet endearing in a weird way. Like you want to be mad at him, but then you also feel really bad for him.
Yeah.
But you're also like, how do you exist in the world?
And he's also very successful and like he's good at managing money of all things. Anyway, we're getting away. He's a secondary character here, but
Oddly enough,
Jude has this tub that fell through his home. So he needs to move. This is like 3:00 in the morning when this happens. And so he's trying to navigate this, like, what am I supposed to do with myself? Like, where am I going to live, basically? And they talk to the landlord and engineers and shit, and it's like, basically he has to leave his apartment for like several months. I think it's like 3 months or something. And so he has to figure out what the hell he's going to do. His best friend, Dylan.
oh Dylan,
God, I love Dylan. Dylan's from the first book. I should mention this. So this is book 2. I don't think anyway that you have to read the first book in order to understand this.
No.
I didn't, and like all of it's perfectly clear. This is book 2 in the Mixed Messages series. Book 1 is called Rule Breaker with Dylan, his best friend, and Gabe.
who was his boss.
Book 3 is Risk Taker with Henry and Ivo. Ivo? I don't know. I've not met Ivo yet, so I don't know who that is. Vow Maker, which is a book about Dylan and Gabe as well, like the second book. And then there's like a billion short stories in between.
I didn't read the short stories, but I've read all the other ones.
Yeah, because like one of them is like people getting married, and then there's like a Christmas episode or whatever, and like there's just so many like little nuggets. Well, it's stuff that Lily Morton like put out in her newsletter, and like stuff that like Katie Robert does all the time. She's like, here's like a little like insert of whatever, and then she'll release a book of short stories later and stuff like that.
One thing I've noticed too is like I read a book called Confetti Hearts, which is by Lily Morton, and it was about a guy who he was a wedding planner, and I read that before I read these ones. And so when I was reading Vow Maker, I was like, why does this character seem so familiar? And it was the guy from Confetti Hearts.
Oh, love that.
And it ended up being like, I think there was a tie between the issue with him and his like other whatever. I think that Dylan and Gabe, anyway, it was a whole thing. I was like, oh, I like that there's connections here, because it's two completely different series.
Oh,
well,
that's
sort
interesting.
of.
So Dean of all people helps him out.
Which is okay. So this leads into your like Dean is like super like thoughtful and yet not thing, because like when he's like, hey, yeah, my stepbrother, he's like, but there's also something I was supposed to tell you, like, and he completely neglects telling him of something very important.
Let's backtrack for a second. So Dean gives Jude the number or the address of his stepbrother.
Yes.
And this is all based in London, I should say. So like he's in a ritzy part of town. And he's like, yeah, you like meet him this time to this date. He needs someone to help with a personal assistant thing, and like you can just stay there. And then gives him the address and then leaves.
He
this
calls him, doesn't he?
He does. He talks to him on the phone,
but
briefly.
It's like completely random.
Well, and he steps out of the room, so Jude doesn't even hear the conversation. You don't get any information. All you get is context. Like, there's no context. You have no idea what has been said.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, totally. Like, you can just go stay with him. No big deal. I need to tell you something. Can't remember what to tell you. Anyways, it can't be that important. I need to get on a flight. Bye.
Bye.
So he leaves. And fast forward a few hours, Jude goes to the house at the time.
Pink.
It's a bright pink house with a navy blue door.
Yep.
And this is funny, of course, because we're in like a nice British neighborhood, and it's fancy, and there's a pink fucking house in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So he walks up at the door and knocks, and no one answers. And then he knocks again and rings the bell. No one answers. And he rings the bell and knocks again. And then finally, somebody answers the door.
A little somebody.
A little 5-year-old kid answers the door. And he's like, who are you? And it's like, Jude. I have an appointment with Asa. And then the kid slams the door in his face. And Jude's like, excuse me. And like knocks again and rings the doorbell. And the kid's like,
what's the password?
You can't come in unless you know the password. And he's like talking to him through the mail slot. And Jude's like, oh God, like what's the password? And then he calls Dylan, his best friend.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, hey Dylan, what if you were a 5-year-old kid, what would a password be for something? And he's like, I have so many questions right now. I don't know. Like my nieces and nephews, like they I don't even know. Something weird, like about poo. And then he hangs up. Jude is like, does it have something to do with poo? And the kid is like, ooh, that's one part of it. Do you know what the other word is? Anyway, so he ends up like guessing his password. It's like pink poo, because it's the color of the house. And the kid's like, ding, 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 you did it. You get to come in.
Amazing.
He's like a 5-year-old kid. Anyway, so the nanny comes down behind the kid, be like, oh my God, what are you doing? And they have a tiff.
Because the nanny is actually horrible.
The nanny's a piece of work.
Oh no.
So she goes to close the door, and Jude like kind of slips his toe in the door and leaves it open, and then walks down the hallway towards this set of double doors. And the double doors is open all of a sudden from the study.
Oh yeah.
And there's this very 6.5 foot tall, long-haired, scruffy beard, tall drink of man.
Doesn't somebody burst out of his office?
Yes.
The personal assistant?
The current and soon-to-be previous personal assistant of Asa Jacobs storms out of the room, yelling about how indignant this is, and he used to work for the Queen, and he can't believe the level of harassment he has to put up with, and good luck, goodbye, and leaves. And then Asa comes out behind him and runs into Jude, and as he's like on the phone with the agency, and he's talking about like, you'll never work in this whatever again, send me another one, blah blah blah. And Jude walks in and he's like, oh, I'm here about the personal assistant job. And he's like, geez, that was quick. They must be really on the ball about this in the placement agency.
Wow.
And then it comes out that like, he's like, oh yeah, like Dean contacted you and told you about and he's like, Dean just said I need to meet Jude. And he's like, yeah, that's me, I'm Jude. He's like, he didn't say anything about me hiring you or staying here. And he's like, right, of course he didn't, because it's Dean, and Dean wouldn't mention any of those things. And I'm so like, okay. Anyway, and they suss out this deal that Jude is going to work as his personal assistant, and he's going to stay there. He has to do the necessary background checks on him, etc. And then Dean starts citing, he's like, oh yeah, I have references, whatever, like you can contact this person, this person, this person. And Asa is like, that person's a photographer and that person's like a publicist. And he's like, how do you know these people? He's like, oh, well, I'm a model. And he's like, fuck, are you serious? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, I don't even know if you could possibly do this job. Like, I don't know if it's probably above your pay grade. Like, you wouldn't be like smart enough. Like, just immediately starts judging the shit out of Jude based on his career. And it comes back to bite him in the ass, because Jude's like, really? You think I'm the biggest airhead, whatever. It's like, okay,
Guess what?
bet.
Guess what Dean forgot to mention?
So the thing Dean forgot to mention is that Asa hates models.
Don't tell Asa you're a model.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
that's the thing he shouldn't have mentioned to him.
Oh,
So that's the first impression.
great. Good job, Dean. Thanks,
It's
bud.
important.
So Asa like reluctantly hires him.
Yeah, also important to know that Jude has no sweet clue who Asa is. Like, none.
Right. So neither does our audience. So Asa.
That's fair.
I was like, neither do I, bro.
So Asa is an actor, and he was in a series like about 6-7+ years ago. That took off really big, whatever, and he was a big star. And then he kind of like disappeared. And you later find out he disappeared to look after his kid, his 5-year-old. Sorry, his now 5-year-old. And now he's kind of back in the scene, like making movies and doing series and stuff again. And he's in like, it's very interesting because like you're trying to draw parallels kind of when you're reading this book. And I'm like, is he like starring in like Game of Thrones basically kind of situation, or like Vikings or something? Like it's one of those shows because it's like it's filmed in like Ireland, and like he has to do like sword fighting practice and shit. And I'm like, oh, okay, this guy's like in Game of Thrones or some shit. Like
There was a period of time where I was like, did he used to be James Bond? I'm really confused.
like it's very,
That would be fun.
well, it's kind of funny because it's like you kind of want to draw parallels to real life here because there is some parallels, but I'm like, this is all fabricated. So like,
And it's delightful.
it's nice, and it meshes really well because like again, it's like it's British and it's like proper British, so you get a lot of that kind of British mentality, and especially around the paparazzi is a big one. And like,
Except that no one says knickers.
I know no one says
I don't
knickers
think
in this
anybody's
book.
wearing
No
knickers.
one wears knickers. It's kind of sad.
Well, I mean, Miss B probably was.
Oh,
but
maybe.
I don't think we find out about them.
So we learn about Asa through Dylan, who is Jude's best friend. He goes to stay with them for like a couple days while Asa does his background checks and whatever else. And
Can we spell this name for me? Asa?
ASA.
Okay.
I did misspell it ass on the sheet somewhere because typos, that happens, because I wrote his name 5 million times. So
It's not on my sheet. So.
no, sorry. I'll write ass on your sheet if you like.
Yeah, give me your sheet. I'll put ass on it.
Put a big old ass there. So we go back to, so he's staying at Dylan's, and Dylan is married to Gabe, which is book 1. No, sorry, are they married? They're together. They're just dating.
engaged.
That's right, because one of these spin-offs is like them
Getting married.
getting engaged and married and whatever. Yeah,
Planning their
wedding.
Is that when the wedding planner's around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Good guess.
Yeah.
well done, you did it.
You did it.
So Dylan and Gabe have a home together, and Gabe is a lawyer, so they're well-to-do, and solicitor. Sorry, good point.
And Dylan was his assistant.
That's right. So the problem is, and normally, like Jude would stay here long term because they have a guest room. It's just that Dylan and Gabe do this thing where they just bone each other constantly, and it keeps Jude up all night, and he doesn't want to live in that environment. So it's a little
Fair.
off-putting in that regard. Totally fair.
Tough but fair.
Tough but fair. So he has to endure this for a couple days while Asa sorts his stuff out. But this is where you learn who Asa is, because Dylan, growing up, had this massive crush on him. And I should mention the age gap too. So like Jude is 28 and Asa is 44. So there's 16 years between there.
What?
I thought it was his brother.
Dylan?
Dean's stepbrother.
Oh, Dean's stepbrother. Okay, so this is Dylan. So Dylan is his best friend. Dean was his hookup.
Okay.
Dean is another model.
And I know I spent too much time talking about Dean because he's so irrelevant in this book. Like the only thing he comes up is him putting him in contact with Asa. It's the only thing you need to know about him.
Okay.
Yeah. So Dylan, however, is his best friend. He's going to come up again and again.
Okay.
Again and again.
And again and again and again and again and again.
But he knows the other guy?
He knows who Asa is because Asa is like a big
Right,
movie
right.
star or
Okay,
TV star.
yes, I
And
see.
so he had a big old crush on him growing up because he was he was bisexual, and he was openly bisexual when they were younger too. So it was like one of those,
I mean, I have a crush on Asia. So.
right? Same. So it was one of those big things where it's like, oh, there's not a lot of people in the media like celebrating homosexuality when they were younger, and especially bisexuality and whatever. So, and they're, both Dylan and Jude are gay, obviously. And well, I mean, he's married to Gabe, but yeah. So,
It could be bisexual.
fair.
Or pansexual?
Well, it's interesting because Dylan actually cites that because he makes an offhand comment about Jude never being into him because he is bisexual. Asa, sorry.
Yeah.
Because he is bisexual, because Jude, and it's a throwaway comment, so they don't even analyze like, oh, maybe Jude is only into like gay guys. Do you know what I mean?
I think if I remember correctly, when I read it, it had that like biphobic kind of feel to it.
It did.
Like, where people are like, oh, well, either like you can't be both.
Oh, it's or the gold star lesbian thing where it's like you've only ever dated women.
Yeah. Or like, you're worried that it's not just one person they can leave you for. It's two genders they could leave that whole whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, let people love who they want to love, I guess.
And I mean, like I said, it was a throwaway comment.
Yeah.
And so I didn't read too much in. There's a few of those in here that like caught me off guard. And that's the only one that comes to memory currently. But like every so often you'll come across when you're like, that's a weird thing to say. Anyway, but
I do feel like there was a certain degree of I don't want to say energy or like
a vibe
that was very much like, it's like, well, you're not gay, but you're not straight. You know what I mean? Like Asa was made to feel like he was a problem because
which is really interesting because that is the only time it comes up from Jude's perspective, or even because it wasn't even with Jude, it was Dylan making a comment about it.
Yeah.
But Jude himself in his interior monologue never mentions it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird like I said, it's a throwaway line. It's a weird one. And maybe that comes up in the first book. I don't know.
No, I don't think I don't
Okay.
remember it does, but I think I'm thinking more of like Asa and how Billy came to be and like all of the like that
Yeah,
stuff.
I guess, but like I didn't
Not
read,
not involving Jude.
I didn't read anything judgmental about that. Like
Okay.
I read it judgmental from the media perspective.
Yes. Yeah.
But not like any of the characters.
Yeah.
So like because I mean again,
But there was that like line of
and I mean like to be expected, the world's a piece of shit. Like I don't, you know what I mean? And especially the media in Britain, it's like get fucked.
Yeah.
Like the fact that this book even exists and it's a positive message in general is great. So I don't know. Again, throwaway line, very weird, but that's fine. So we learn about who Asa is through Dylan's perspective, big movie star, whatever, hot as fuck, bisexual. And then he talks about how like, there's this like weird scandal. He like went out of the media, whatever, for like a bunch of years, and then now he's back doing Broadway and these shows and whatever. That is how we get the perspective on Asa. So Asa hires him officially. He moves in, and this is where we meet
Peggy.
one of my favorite characters, Peggy,
I love Peggy and
Mrs.
Amos.
B, and fucking Amos. Oh my god, Amos is the driver, and he's just perpetually depressed.
Yeah.
He's like Eeyore.
Eeyore.
He's fucking Eeyore,
Yeah.
and he's just like, everything is terrible all the time.
We're all just die eventually.
We're all just gonna die, the inevitable heat death of the world, whatever. And then Peggy is like this sassy 60-year-old who like has grown up in the theater, basically. Like I can't remember, there's a term for it, of like people who like dress the actors and like prim and proper them and all that stuff and get them ready for the stage or whatever. I don't know, they have a name, I don't know what it's called.
In my head I was like, yeah, fluffer. No, that's porn.
Amazing.
Nope. And so, but
She's an actor fluffer.
Jesus. So, but Peggy comes off as like this very prim proper British lady, and then when her and Jude start like throwing stuff back at each other, you realize that like, oh, she's seen some shit in her life, and she's not scared to like make sexual jokes and stuff, and it's wonderful. And then of course we get some more information about Billy and just like how he's a delightful child. And he's just like, I mean, he's a kid. And the author actually, Lily, in her, I think it's in the author's notes at the end of the book, cites that like her own kids were good inspiration for this, and like she has a couple nieces that were like kind of wild childs as well, or children as well. So like there's a lot of influence coming from her life there, writing Billy. And he is like he's just such a weird, I mean, he's a kid. He's a good like bog standard kid of like interested in weird stuff, super engaging, just wants to talk to you all the time, like is fun to be around, like just a kid. And yeah,
Kids
he's just
are fun to be around.
I mean, they can be. This one is like, he likes dinosaurs and Legos, so I'm like, cool, I also like dinosaurs and Legos, let's be friends. Perfectly fine. That being said,
Your dad's also hot.
his nanny's a piece of shit.
That's true.
That's who we get also some information on, which is what Miss Hampton, I think her name is.
Hampton.
She's there. I mean, let's be honest. She's there because she wants to fuck Asa. Yeah, of course.
Hard same.
Hard same. But I'm also not a nanny or a piece of shit.
I mean, I feel like I'd be a good nanny.
I could see you in that nanny outfit. What's up?
Not in a nanny outfit. No
You
one
have to wear the nanny outfit. You're a British nanny now.
No one wants to see me.
I want to see you in that outfit.
What's a nanny outfit look like?
Are you thinking maid outfit?
Yeah, it's like a maid outfit, but it's a nanny. It's Mary Poppins. You get the dress.
That looks nothing like a maid.
That is like nuts. That's,
Sure. So when Jude starts his job as Ace's personal assistant,
He's really good at it.
he is exceptionally amazing at the job. And I need to highlight something here too, is that at the beginning of every single chapter is a block of a letter that Jude wrote like as Asa, responding to his fan mail.
That was priceless.
Because the very first job that Jude has to do for Asa is to open his fan mail from people, and and some of it comes with like sex toys and cock rings and pieces of fabric and previously enjoyed underwear and
pictures,
pictures and marriage proposals and everything you can imagine under the sun.
Wasn't there one that was like something about the size of his penis and how it makes him cry because his penis isn't that big or something like that?
So what? Well, no. But so this is Jude being a vapid like model type, writing back to these letters as Asa, and then attaching like, here enclosed is a signed autograph, whatever, of myself.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Asa sits down to read some of them, and is just like floored at this. And Jude is looking at him like he's channeling his inner Dean, and he's just looking at him like, yeah, of course that's what I wrote. That makes good sense.
Duh.
Like, what else would I say? Like, yeah, that's exactly correct. And they're just like they're just nonsense. And it's
Is
very
he
funny.
for real, or he's like just
He's fucking with
Fucking.
him. Oh yeah, he's fucking with him. Jacqueline, the next couple of things I'm going to say is Jude fucking with Asa.
okay?
Because Asa came at him with the like, oh, you're just like, this might be a little bit above your
Right.
understanding, you like, because you're dumb,
Yes.
basically. And Jude's like, you fucking asked for it then, because Jude's been to university. He has an undergrad in history,
He wants to be a T.
and he was doing his master's in order to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And so what happened is, because you get a bit of the backstory, he dropped out of university and started modeling in order to raise money for his family. So his mother and father work on a farm out in the countryside.
They own the farm, don't they?
They own the farm, and his father suffered an accident, like a tractor rolled over or something, and like almost paralyzed him. And so he was in a bad way for a number of years, just recuperating and stuff. And so Jude like basically left college to help, or university, in order to help out at the farm and raise money in order to support it, because they had to take all these extra debts and stuff in order just to get things back on track. And not to mention, there was like, what's it called? Foot and mouth disease, like went through the farm at like years earlier or something, and really crippled them. Yeah, the cows. And so like, there was a whole bunch of things that just knocked against him. And so he's trying to pick up those pieces and the best he can. And so we as the readers get this information, but like he doesn't talk about, like Dylan knows and Gabe knows, but like nobody else knows this about him.
He's a model through circumstance, not through like desire.
That's right. And so when you interact with Jude, like as a reader, he's very articulate and he's very open-minded and just like very interested in literary, pieces in general.
Oh, he reads.
My God, he reads. And then one of the things he like spoofs Asa with is reading like Heat magazine, but really he's got like one of his favorite like historical romance novels behind it that he's reading, so it's like the opposite of what it usually is. It's great.
Hilarious.
Yeah, and he's like tucks the romance novel away while he's reading Heat. Then we go to the art exhibit, is the first like outing they go to. And Asa takes his like girlfriend, quote unquote. They're like together in the media for visual. I think her name Lucy.
His beard.
Lucy. Yeah, his beard. Like dead ass, that's what it is.
I thought everybody already knew he was like bi or whatever.
Yeah, but
she fills a role though, like to keep people off his back kind of thing. Like they're friends, but like
they have hooked up in the past, but they're not like together. Like they just go to events together, I guess, like a casual thing. Anyway, so Lucy comes over and they go out to this art exhibit, and so obviously like Asa takes Jude basically to like pay for stuff more or less, like carry my cards and whatever. It's very interesting. Come along, boy.
Slave.
And he meets he runs into Henry, is his name? Henry Ashworth. He's a lawyer and he's Gabe's best friend. So this is Dylan's.
Oh, Henry.
Henry's in the third book. Yeah, so he runs into Henry at this event.
Henry.
And Henry's do you remember what happens? Henry's there with the artist. Like that's his date of the art exhibit. And as soon as he starts talking to Jude just like rips the art like a new one. He's like, this is some garbage trash, whatever, something or other. And then the artist is like,
thanks, bro.
Like, oh my God, like whatever. And Henry's like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. He wasn't very good in bed anyway. So anyway,
I was gonna break up with him anyway.
Literally. So we get and you get this from Henry's perspective later, that like as soon as Jude hugs Henry, Asa like makes his way over to him to like we're ready to leave sort of thing. And like it's funny going through the book for a second time that I'm picking up these like itty bitty nuggets that has been left along the way of when Asa is getting jealous or possessive a little bit, which is wild because like, and immediately like when you, cause Asa's chapters are so few and far between here.
It's mostly Jude.
It's mostly Jude's perspective. And like every so often you'll get part of a chapter that has to do with Asa, which I kind of like because then you get like when Asa starts falling for him, you're just like, oh, I see. This was happening all along from Jude's perspective, and it was being read in a different way.
Yeah, it filled in the context.
It did. It was well written in that regard, I think, where it's like the anticipation from Asa's perspective was not apparent in Jude's perspective.
Yeah.
And Jude just read it as like, oh, he's just being an asshole because he is. And when you get Asa's perspective, he's like, I've been such an asshole. What the fuck is wrong with me? And it's like, it's the really nice back and forth.
In the first book, I thought Henry and Jude for sure were going to hook up.
Oh, really?
And then
they do, like, and they are very friendly.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, no. But then Asa and Ivo.
And then Asa happened.
And Ivo.
Then they go to leave. And it's interesting because this is the one time that Jude is like, okay, I'm not going to fuck this up for him.
Yeah.
Like, we're going out in public. And Jude, admittedly, like, when he does his, like, shenanigans and antics and stuff, like, one of them was, he had written in his diary, like, his planner book, that he was supposed to be on site for this visit for something, and he sent him to a different location on a different day. And then he's like, oh, actually, it was this other day. Like, just, he's fucking with him, but it's not detrimental. It's just like annoying.
Yeah.
One of them was like, he's supposed to have this interview with somebody, and he wrote it in his diary that it was the plumber was coming that day, and so he treated the interview person as like a plumber. Was like, oh yeah, let's talk about this wet room we're going to put in and all this stuff, and the interviewer's asking him questions about an upcoming series and shit. He's like, this is weird, but it's a plumber. But and like, just stupid shit like that. Like nothing really detrimental.
It's not heinous. It's just
not.
annoying.
It's just kind of fucking funny, honestly.
It's like pranky, not like
it's literally
sabotage.
pranks. Yeah,
because
but and he's acting like, oh, I fucked up. Like, oops, sorry.
I'm so dumb.
Yeah, literally, it's quite good. So, but this art exhibit thing, he's like, okay, I'm not fucking with this. Like, we're out in public. This is his like whatever. He's with his like lady friend and shit. Like, we're gonna be on point today. And so as soon as he like, Asa sends him out to bring the car around, so they can avoid the photographers and shit. And Asa like runs out to be like, where's the car, Jude? And Jude points to the wrong car, I guess. And so they get in this SUV, and again, admittedly, to Jude's point, all of the SUVs are black Audis because that's what one does. And so they jump into this SUV, and it's like some other dude driving, wearing like his pajamas or some shit. And he's like, what are you people doing in my car? And they're like, we got in the wrong car. Where's Amos? And then Ace is like, I'll give you a bunch of money if you just take us to this place. And he's like, okay, sure. And he's like, do I know you from something? And he's like, yeah, I'm in this series. And he's like, oh, I have my wife like that. Do you want to sign something? He's like, I will absolutely sign something. Anyway, so they get in the car and they go off to Lucy's house. And then
Lucy's the
girlfriend. Yeah. And so they go off.
Lucy Loothall.
And they, in the back of the car too, there's like one point, it's written from Jude's perspective again, which is like why it's a little bit weird, but like Jude and Asa share this like moment in the car with this like really intense like look with each other, because Asa's like on to him and knows that he's not a dumbass, but he's also like frustrated with this whole situation and being annoyingly attracted to Jude. And every so often you'll get this like little nugget of how Jude looks very much like one of his exes. And so he has that attraction level to him already in that context, but he also has like the backpedaling because that relationship crashed and burned in a big way. So you get this like weird dichotomy of like, I want to be attracted to this guy, but holy fuck, I should not be attracted to this guy. And then Jude, of course, is like, Ace is hot as fuck. And it's like, yeah, he is. But Jude also doesn't do relationships. So anyway, and he doesn't want to shit where he eats. So
Nobody wants to
shit where they eat. Asa and Lucy, off they fuck to her place. He, in the meantime, when they got into the vehicle, there's all these photographers around taking pictures and shit at these events, as there is. And immediately there is like, I think it's like the next morning, Asa is standing outside on the balcony, like having his guilt nicotine, he calls it, because he's like trying to come down off of whatever is going on. And his publicist, Max, I think his name is? Yes, Max's agent. And Billy's, they call him his erstwhile grandparent, because he's been with them forever. He immediately, he's on the phone with Asa, and telling him about like all these rumors about this threesome that's obviously happening with Lucy and amongst Lucy, Asa, and Jude, because Jude is like a Calvin Klein underwear model. Like, people know who he is. And so they see him getting into a vehicle with Asa and Lucy. They're like making, because Jude also has a reputation of like being kind of flighty in just hooking up and then like not staying with people. So like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that is what was going on.
Well,
so
and there's also like the rumors about Asa having had threesomes and stuff like that before.
Well, and it's not even rumors. It's just like it was in the media as fact because it was. And anyway, we'll talk about that later because some other stuff comes out about that.
Fire the bitch.
Yeah, so then we're at the note, fire the bitch. Fire the bitch nanny. Fire Jude and then hire Jude as the nanny. I think it's like the next day or something, Jude comes in and he hears like a scream from upstairs, a smash and a scream from upstairs. And he runs upstairs and the nanny is like manhandling Billy.
Yeah.
And Jude is like, the fuck? Get your hands off that child right now. What the fuck are you doing? And they're like, because Billy had like knocked over a container of Lego or something, like something very stupid.
Yeah.
And so Billy was like, he picks Billy up and Billy just clings to him like he's terrified, obviously. And because he's getting really, really close with Jude. Like anyway, Jude entertains him constantly. Like he's always there for him to hang out and like chit chat and whatever. So like, and so Billy's like clinging to him and she's like yelling at the nanny, like, get the fuck out of here. Like, what are you doing? Put your hands on this child, blah, blah, blah.
Because he's protective.
Exactly. And then Asa walks in and he's like, excuse me, what's going on?
Yeah.
And so.
Is he a good dad?
He's a very good dad,
Okay.
Jack.
Good.
Oh my God.
Ace is just like, if he could just be a dad, he would just be a dad.
Literally. He loves his kid so much.
Which is a big reason why I wanted to do this book as the Father's Day book,
Mm-hmm.
because A, I wanted to do something that wasn't heteronormative, and B, it was just,
Big dad energy.
yeah.
It's got big dad energy.
Big D energy.
Yeah, he does. He fires the nanny, and then he has the earnest conversation with Jude about like, hey, listen, you're a really shit PA.
On purpose.
On purpose. And I know it's on purpose. And I know you're not that stupid. He's like, oh, how did you know? And he's like, I caught you reading one of those historical romance novels, not a fucking magazine. And like, he had little like pieces in here and there about how he knew.
Wasn't it like the word, even though like how he wrote the responses was vapid, it was the words.
The vocabulary. And sometimes when he spoke, he would use like these big, like robust words. And he's like, stupid people don't use words like that, like shit like that.
Yeah.
And just like he always saw like when he wanted to add to a conversation but stopped himself from doing it because he would be too articulate about it. So that kind of stuff. And he was citing a bunch of sources and he's like, oh, okay, you got me. Cool. And he's like, okay, so you're fired. And he's like, oh, God damn it. Okay, well, I'll move out and whatever and I'll figure it out. And he's like, no. I want to hire you to look after Billy. And he's like, are you sure? I have no experience. And he's like, the lady I just fired had the most experience at the best agency that I could find.
And all she wanted to do was fuck me.
And all she wanted to do was fuck me. So he's like, okay, I guess I'm Billy's nanny now. So now Jude is the nanny.
And that's how he became the nanny.
God help us. Okay, so we jump ahead a month. And Jude is like, we just get to the scene where Jude's at like school pickup or whatever, and he's like he's the point of interest to what they call the mommy mafia. So like all of these like well-to-do mothers are picking up their children in this like fancy neighborhood, in this fancy school, and everything's fancy. And so he's the talk of the town because number one, he's there picking up Billy, and so everyone's like, who's this kid like who looks like this other guy named Philip? And then he's like, who the fuck is Philip? He looks like Philip, but he's not Philip, and he's here picking up Billy, but he's with Asa. So, like, what's going on? It's like gossip.
We love it.
We love to see it. Dylan visits that day, and it's, again, like, Jude is such a quick character, and I love
Quick-witted,
him.
you mean?
He's so quick-witted. And he walks in home with Billy, and Dylan's sitting there, because Dylan had come to visit, and he's sitting there at the table talking to Asa, and Jude pretends not to know who he is. And then Dylan's like, don't do this to me. What are you doing?
I love Dylan.
And then
He pretends to not know who Dylan is?
yeah, because he's sitting there so he has a big crush on Asa, like Dylan does, because he like grew up idolizing him.
Right.
And so Jude is putting him in a bad spot with him, basically, just to
Being
be an
like,
asshole.
I don't know who you are.
He's like, I have no idea who you
Okay,
are.
I see.
Yeah, and he's like, we grew up together. What the fuck are you doing? So the reason Dylan is visiting is because Jude's birthday is on the weekend.
Yes.
And of course, Asa's like, you didn't tell us it was your birthday. And he's like, yeah, I don't like celebrating my birthday. Like, I have no interest. It's just another day in the calendar. So I don't mention it. Don't bring it up to people, whatever. And of course, Dylan's like, here's a present from me and Gabe. And this is from your mom and your dad. And like has all the presents from the family, basically. And he's like, okay, thanks.
Go away now.
Go away now. Right. So this is where Mr. Miffles comes in. Jude
Mr. What?
Miffles.
Miffles? All right.
So
All right.
as they're wrapping up their conversation about all this stuff, Jude is like, okay, Billy, give me your bag. I'll empty your lunchbox and whatever.
Oh.
And he goes to empty the lunchbox and there's a hamster in it. And he's just chomping away and eating his like leftover yogurt or whatever. And everyone freaks out. And Asa jumps on the table
and screams.
So the 6.5 foot tall fucking broad shouldered Asa jumps on the
Lion
table,
man.
terrified of this little itty bitty hamster.
So good.
Oh, it's amazing. So then Jude obviously just like casually captures it, and they sort out that Billy had kidnapped the hamster from class.
Yep.
And because the hamster, Mr. Miffles, told Billy obviously that he wanted to come home with him. And of course, Jude has the good sense to be like, now, if we take Mr. Miffles away from the classroom, the rest of the class can enjoy him too. And he like talks him down. And he's like, okay, I guess he should be sent home.
It's so funny. So I have a client who was telling me a story because they're a teacher, and in their kids' class, I think it was, there was a kid whose backpack was moving, and the kid took their cat to school in the backpack.
I love that actually happened.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The kid took the cat to school in the backpack. Why?
Because why not?
Because they're a kid?
No, but you said someone was moving, or like
The backpack was moving.
Oh, I see.
Because there was a
I thought
live
you were
cat
saying that
in
cat,
it.
like he wanted to keep the cat and it was trying to move or something. The parents were, I don't know, getting rid of the cat. So
No, the cat was just moving in the backpack, as a cat would in a backpack.
As one does.
That just made me think of the cat.
That's amazing.
I thought I'd share.
So they they round that up and whatever. I should mention too, along with school pickup, there's the scene with the Mummy Mafia. He also meets one of the other mothers who's like free spirited, weird clothes in weird times of day / seasons, like sometimes late for class, definitely an artist type, sometimes covered in paint, named Rachel, which tracks. And they become BFFs. And
As one would.
And of course, she is the wife of one of Ace's best friends.
Oh yeah.
And so she starts like gossiping about Philip a little bit because again, Jude doesn't know the big backstory there because like he and Ace are not like an item and they're not like getting into their personal backstories yet. So it's not
They're keeping
a
information
thing.
separate.
Well, and it's not important information really because it's one of Ace's ex-relationships. Like it's not something the nanny needs to know.
They have a profesh relationship.
They do. They're profesh right now. So speaking of non-profesh things, he has, I guess this is profesh. He has an underwear shoot, and then he hangs out with Rachel, and they gossip about Philip again. And this is where you get some backstory about Philip in particular, about how shitty he was, and how he had cheated on Asa several times, and etc. And then we get to the weekend. And on this weekend, it's Jude's birthday. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, he is woken up to a child trying to open his eyelids. And
I hope it was Billy.
it was Billy.
It was one of Rachel's kids.
And Jude comments that Billy has finally progressed from just staring at him in his sleep to actively trying to wake him up. And that's disturbing. But Ace is there too. So he's like, oh, okay, this is a thing. And of course they like yell happy birthday at him and they're going to celebrate his birthday with him. And Ace is very apprehensive because he's like, is this okay? Can we like help you celebrate your birthday? And
Because consent is important.
it is. And he's also like, because this is also a thing Billy wanted to do too. And of course, like Asa frames it in that like it was Billy's idea to do something for you, but I figured out which is your favorite book, and I booked a cottage at the location where your favorite book is written
Daddy
about.
energy.
And it's called Frenchman's Creek. It's in Cornwall.
Adorable.
And so he's like, yes, you can absolutely take me to Frenchman's Creek in Cornwall for a weekend. That would be amazing. And this is where you get a peek behind Jude as well about like, he's not your typical model type. Like, yeah, he's been all over the world to like Milan and Spain and whatever. Like, so he's been everywhere like all these exotic places and has lived an exotic life, but he really just likes comfy, romantic, lovely
super down to
settings.
earth.
He's super down to earth and very chill. And so, and Asa makes comments every so often, like a little insecure, I would say, about like, I know like this is probably not your jam. You'd rather be partying and whatever. And he's like,
Yeah.
I don't think you understand. This is exactly what I'd like to be doing.
The assumptions he makes about Jude's, it's like he knows that Jude's character is what it is based on how Jude is with Billy, but he still continues to make assumptions about Jude's character based on what he thinks he understands about the industry in which Jude is a part of.
I also think that Ace is like testing the waters.
I think
Because
he's insecure.
I absolutely think he's insecure, and rightly so to a point. Because when you get into his backstory about Philip, who was also a model,
Yeah.
and how he lived his life, it's hard for him not to be judgmental in that regard.
Yeah.
And he does like totally own that too, because like there's a number of times where he checks himself and like, right, this is Jude isn't Philip,
Yeah.
and he's not gonna act like Philip, and so like I need to stop judging him as if he were Philip.
Wow, that's mature.
Super mature. He's 44, so yeah. So
That doesn't mean
you know,
anything.
totally fair. 100% fair. So they go to Frenchman's Creek, and they have like this lovely, amazing weekend.
It's
and
so sweet.
it's so fucking sweet. And so like, there's one night. It's like the first night they're there. They were like laying out back watching the stars or something, like drinking wine. And this is where you get the backstory about Eve. So Eve is Billy's mother. To your earlier point, Billy was conceived in a threesome between Philip and Eve and Asa.
Oh.
And so they were never together, like
No,
in a
but they were
relationship, but they were friends. And so Eve was also a drug addict. She was like a heroin addict or something. As soon as Asa found out that she was pregnant, he had her in rehab. He had her move into his place. He looked after her, like waited on her hand and foot, like made sure that she was taken care of and looked after.
Stepped the fuck up.
Well, and he insisted upon it too, because, and this was the thing too of like,
So he's not the biological.
he is the bio dad.
Oh.
Threesome, Eve, Asa, Philip. Asa knocked Eve up.
Yeah. I just thought that the
'Cause
mom,
he's- oh, no, sorry, he's by-
mafia or whatever said that the kid looked like Philip. So
No,
No,
sorry.
Jude
Jude looks like
Philip.
Philip.
okay.
Yeah.
So like Asa has a type kind of thing.
Yes,
Right,
that's what
I
they're
see,
getting at.
yeah.
Yeah. You get that information. And so you also learn about her death.
Yeah.
She died when he was like, oh God, like 2 years old, I
Yeah.
think, when Billy was 2. And after she had Billy, she was in and out of rehab again.
Yeah.
And the day that she died, she was actually in a car with someone who was high going to score or something. And they were in a car accident and she passed away. And then you learn some heinous stuff about like, at one point she took Billy to like with her to go get high somewhere at someone's house, and like Asa flipped his shit and kicked her out. And like, it was like, I think a month after that or a couple weeks after that she actually died in that car accident. So like, there's a lot of like trauma bullshit going on there, you know, but at the same time, he's like, of all the shit that happened, like Billy, I wouldn't trade it for the world because Billy means everything to me.
Because he's a good dad.
Because he's a good dad. And then obviously they kiss because they're like having this like heart-to-heart talk under the stars with some wine in Frenchman Creek, and they start kissing. And then
French kissing.
they decide that they both come in their pants. That's your favorite thing.
Yes.
They both do at the same time because they're, what's it called? Frotting? Is that the phrase I'm looking for?
Yes.
Yes. Like grinding each other.
Oh.
And so they
Frottage.
have a conversation about like being fuck buddies basically until Jude moves out at the end of the summer. And Asa, when you get it from his perspective, he's like, this is not going to be enough, but it's what I'm getting, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And Jude's like, he doesn't get in his head about it. He gets in his head about it like later on, but early on he's like, this'll just do. It'll do until the end. I obviously can't be in a relationship, whatever. That's not going to work. So this is what we're going to do. And so he's still like gung-ho about moving out and everything. When they leave the cottage because they have a whole weekend there. They go walk trails and they eat fish and chips on the coast and like go crabbing and like a whole bunch of stuff and like
Super
The
endearing
kids
stuff.
there too, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And so and this was another thing too, and this is where Asa starts falling so fucking hard for him because Philip and he keeps drawing parallels between Philip, obviously, because that's his frame of reference. But Philip never wanted to hang out with Billy. Philip would get cranky about like having to cancel plans for Billy and blah blah blah. And so you start getting this like parallel between Jude's background with Sam, his ex. And Sam broke up with Jude because Jude couldn't give him the time of day because Jude had to go tend to the farm and deal with his parents and help them pay the bills and wasn't giving Sam enough attention. And so Sam was like, she cheated on him with his friend, basically. And just like, he's like, Sam's justification was like, well, you weren't paying attention to me, so what does it matter? Like, we were basically done with. And so that was his... And it led to like a number of relationships that Jude had where it was just like so superficial. Yeah. There was never anything deeper going on there. And so people would just leave him in the lurch. And the first time he had to drop everything and go deal with his family, people would just like dump him. So he stopped dating people seriously. Back to my point of like Billy so he was relating how Philip would never like to hang out with Billy and all this shit. Jude is like, yeah, Billy wants to go crabbing today. And Ace is like, yeah, but this is your birthday. You would decide what you want to do. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, I decided I want to take Billy crabbing. And it's just like, oh my God, my heart. And Ace is just like melting inside because like, this man cares about my child as much as I do.
As a person who's a single mom, let me tell you.
You love to see it.
The fucking boner that gives you.
Lady boner.
The heart boner.
What up? It's a heart
like,
on.
Please put my kid first some more. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, that's uncomfortable.
Right there. Yeah. So that when they're leaving the cottage, they get their cell service back because obviously this cottage has no cell service. And as soon as they get their cell service back, Asa has like 100 missed calls from Max, his agent. And the reason he has all these calls and whatever, like he stops the vehicle, gets out of the vehicle, and like has this conversation with Max. Philip had apparently released a tell-all story to the media about their relationship, just as Asa is like kind of coming back into the limelight sort of thing. And like Max and Asa had been working in the background to like pay him off more or less because he was like blackmailing him to like, I'm going to release this story unless you give me a bunch of money. He wanted like £1 million or something. It was an obscene amount of money.
Foolish.
Well, just to not be a piece of shit. Like that was a relationship you were in. You cheated on Asa several times.
You didn't deserve him.
You didn't deserve him. Like, and here's the thing too, is that like they started off like in an open relationship, and then Asa, after he had Billy and all this stuff, wanted to have a monogamous relationship, and Philip wasn't on board with that. And so Philip always justified the cheating with like, well, you made me be in a monogamous relationship, and this is me like not being able to do that. And it's just like, oh my God, like just break up with him. Don't cheat on him. Just fucking break up with him if you can't do it. But like he like left modeling, and Asa was like supporting him. Like he was just a shitless layabout. He didn't do anything. He didn't even look after Billy half the time. So it's just like, what the fuck? Anyway, bothers me. So clearly I am bothered. So this tell-all story comes out, and it's like fucking Damage Control Central, because it's the story about Eve and how Billy was conceived in a threesome with Philip and Eve and Asa, and like all this other shit comes out, and it's just not good.
The mom mafia love that gossip.
Oh my God, right?
Well,
so
all Asa wants to do is protect Billy.
Exactly. And so his first instinct is to send... So he has vacation home in Spain. Yeah, Mallorca in Spain. His first instinct is to send Billy with Jude to the vacation home to like get him out of the light, because the paparazzi are like completely surrounding his house right now. This is going to be all over the media. Like, and I think he only has like a week left of school or something. So like, it's not really a big deal that he's missing anything. So
and he's like 5. So
he's like 5. And Jude, of course, he's like kind of taken aback, and he's just like, you're trusting me to take your son out of the country. And Ace is just like, yeah, of course, because you always put Billy first. and you always like you love him as much as I do. Like, of course I trust you with him. And it's just this moment of like, oh no, this is you're both in it too deep. You're way too deep. Like this
Daddy
is
sharks do.
This isn't a fling, do.
Yeah.
So Jude and Billy go off to Spain. Fortunately, Jude is fluent in Spanish because his mother is from Spain. And she's lovely. He has such lovely parents. I love them dearly.
Isn't his mom from Mallorca?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's from the area, yeah. And so he even knows the regional dialect. And so like
Yeah.
when he shows up at the vacation home, the like housekeeper lady she only speaks Spanish, and he speaks fluently Spanish to her. And Billy, of course, who's okay. I was going to make a coloring sheet. My life just didn't work out. I was going to make it for this one particular phrase that comes up in this book several times, and it's the term sun cream because it bothers me.
That's fair.
So, I mean, in Canada, we call it sunscreen. And so in Britain, it's called sun cream, which makes sense. It does because it's a cream you put on to block sun. I get it. Sunblock, whatever. But it's just a funny phrase. Cream. Sun cream. Anyway, I was going to make a coloring sheet about sun cream. Maybe I'll do that later. Anyway, so Billy's particular about his sun cream. So Jude goes into town and picks him up. He picks him up some sunscreen stuff that's like purple, and then it fades to clear or whatever, like when it's rubbed into skin, just because he's picky about it. Anyway, so they're at the cottage for like a week, and they talk to Asa every single night on like FaceTime or whatever, and Billy talks to him every night and whatever. And at one point, Billy's like just kind of down in the dumps. And Jude, of course, like hugs him and just like talks about it, how he misses his dad. And he's like, yeah, but like, I totally, like, I understand. And of course, Billy, because kids, he's like, well, don't you miss my dad too? He's like, yeah, of course I miss your dad, buddy. Like, and that's when you get the like, Jude is actually genuinely sad that Ace is not with them.
Yeah.
And then of course, as they're about to like wrap up the day and they're building sandcastles and shit, they start to walk back up to the vacation home. And there's Asa. So it was like a week later or something. Like he shows up. So
Why did they tell Billy that they were going?
I don't know that they actually said anything.
They're just like, okay, we're leaving your dad now.
Well, like here's the thing: is that like they definitely had conversations about like probably his job or whatever, and be like, oh, you guys just need
Like
to
an extended vacation. kind of thing.
probably. And I mean, it is summer vacation, so like they do stay here for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, they usually vacation here in the summer anyway. Like it's their summer home, so it's not out of the ordinary for them to be there. But it is weird for him to be there without Asa. So, and Asa does like, they have conversations every night. So like, I don't want to project that like, yeah, they probably talked about it, but assumedly there's been a conversation to some degree that a 5-year-old would understand. Yeah.
They said like, Dad just has to work some stuff out.
Yeah, basically. After all this, they get a night to themselves because the neighbors have grandkids that come hang out. And so like Billy is going to hang out with them. And so this is because, I mean, as soon as Asa comes back, they get called in to have lunch or whatever, and Asa immediately like starts macking on Jude
Because it's hot watching somebody do well with your kid.
Yes, like looking after his kid,
Caring about his
for
kid.
a full week out of the country, and like taking care of, and like to the point because he tells them the story about like, oh, I had to go into town one time to pick up this specific sun cream because he doesn't like the normal stuff, and like. Just like little things like that where it's like he went above and beyond to make sure that Billy had everything he needed in this like dire circumstance when like Ace is just so fucking worried about him. But he knows that like Jude is looking after him. So it's quite adorable. And so of course, like as soon as Asa has him by himself, he's like, shoving my tongue down your fucking throat and then I'm putting it in your butthole. And they do some rimming. It's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. I think Jack's gonna read about it actually.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Also, not a mom. Still super hot to watch guys with being cute with kids.
I thought you were going to say super cute to watch guys rimming.
Yeah.
Adorable.
It's my favorite. That's my favorite porn to watch, and I just have like popcorn and
I mean, I usually just have
Candy.
my vibrator,
That's
but
his
like...
favorite. I mean, you gotta grease your fingers up with something.
oh god.
Oh.
I just meant because it was like cute and stuff, not because I thought
Jacqueline
it was
doesn't
hot.
go with popcorn. She just has a little bit of melted butter next to her
Jesus.
bed.
I love it. Okay, moving
My
along.
vagina feels funny now.
Oh, it's greasy.
That's the butter.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I usually use unsalted, but I only had salted today.
Vicious. Okay.
And that's how you get a yeast infection.
They get invited to this party. This dude
yes.
named Julian.
In Spain still?
Yeah, so like this Mallorca is one of those it's an island, right? Is that right? It's an whatever it is. It's an area in Spain that like a bunch of rich people own homes in, like in the area.
Yeah, it's not just like...
It's like the Hamptons.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But like and admittedly though, Asa's villa is like very authentic. And like it wasn't like he purchased it here, it was not built here sort of thing, and it's like it wasn't purpose built, like it's a villa that you just find there. And so it's very homey feeling, and it's got a lot of like the original
local.
touches and and like he keeps it authentic, and like the outback like veranda area has like all these candles that you light up, and like it has a speaker system, so it's like modern but like kind of bespoke. And it's just like homey and warm feeling, and there's books everywhere, and it's just and it's very it feels comfortable. As opposed to Julian's, which is a person that Asa knows. I can't remember how he knows him. He's like another actor or something. Anyway, they get invited to this party. And Asa kind of talks Jude into going. Like they're kind of like, because Jude is like, I could literally stay home and we could just hang out and then fuck, and that's fine. Because of course Jude's like,
Stick
oh,
your
we're
tongue in
home,
my butthole.
we're home together tonight. Like you're gonna fuck me later, and he's like, yeah, I am, because they haven't actually gotten all the way yet. They go to this party, and it is, as you can imagine, this big fucking to do in this like when
fancy.
Well, and Jude, I think the phrase Jude uses is something like, when Asa said he had a villa in Spain, this is what this is what came to mind, because this is this big, like, robust, like, over the top villa.
I love that word.
Villa? Robust.
Robust.
It's robust.
No, robust.
I said villa like 10 times too. So it's this huge villa, and it's got like the pool and like the outside decks, and it's like massive. It's got shit tons of room, and it has like just wings, and like it's massive.
Wings.
Well, like there's different wings for like guest wings, and like
I
you know what I mean.
understood.
It has wings. It flies. So
I was thinking maxi pads, but anyway.
there's a lot of gay people here actually, so not so much.
I can think of uses.
Oh God.
Oh, God.
Oh, there's a joke about that later. Do you remember the Father's Day card?
Yes.
Where he's like, he went to find stickers for the Father's Day card.
Yes.
And he ended up with some feminine hygiene products
Yes.
as stickers. Amazing.
And then there's Philip.
Okay.
I bet you there's yummy food at this party.
They don't cite the food so much. There's a lot of alcohol. Like they're handed bubbly champagne stuff.
Yeah, these are the type of people that like drink their calories.
Yes, you are correct.
Yeah, but if you're drinking, you need to have some food so you don't die.
I'm sure they're fine.
They eat ass, so
About to get a mouthful of ass. Okay. So
Anyway, I'm sure
Julian's-
there's delicious food at this party.
so
Melted butter.
Julian like alludes to he like, oh, it's so uncomfortable. So Julian talks to Asa when Asa first shows up.
yeah.
About like, oh yeah, this thing with Philip, like, oh my God, I mean, you should just talk to him. And Ace is like, I don't want to see this man ever again.
Yeah.
That was some fucking bullshit. And he's like, oh, he was just like, you know, he felt his back against the wall and he couldn't, like, he had to do something and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, yeah, the something he had to do wasn't telling people what kind of butt plugs I enjoy. And like that, like very upsetting, obviously, that he has no interest in talking to this guy. And then I think the last line Julian says to him is like, well, you'll thank me later, is all he says. And it's like, oh no.
You just want to punch.
Oh, like, because he invited him there? What a fuck.
So who the fuck rolls up to this goddamn party and has to talk to Asa
Without a segue.
without a fucking segue?
No
He just-
snacks either.
He just
No snack.
no snacks, no segues, just rolls the fuck up.
No cap.
Is Philip.
No cap. I don't know what
No
that
cap.
means.
That's
All
for the
facts, no printer.
Jesus. So Philip rolls up. They go have a conversation by the pool, and Asa brings Jude along, of course. And Jude is just like the sassiest fucker to this guy, properly so. because Philip's a piece of shit.
Yes.
And it's interesting because he also, like, he has met Philip before, and Philip, like, propositioned him and he turned him down.
Yes.
Because, like, and it was interesting because it would have been when he was still with Asa. Like, he was on the shoot in Milan or somewhere.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And he was like, he railed like 2 other people on set or something at the shoot. And it was just like, Jesus fucking Christ. He's a piece of work. Anyway, so they get into it. They have this big whole blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of back and forth. And then
Philip goes for a swim.
Jude pushes Philip in the pool.
Yeah.
And then continues to throw pillows at him because he's trying to help him get out of the pool. Anyway,
it was a good scene.
it was very funny and like it was so catty and just amazing.
Yeah.
And it's like there's not a lot of cattiness in this book per se, like because you would assume like not assume, but like models have that like kind of cattiness that you would potentially get in like actors. And like when you get in those people together en masse, it
It's
tends to have a
very-
lot of personalities that clash.
It's very like against Jude's actual personality, but leans into what you would assume Jude's personality would be like.
Yep, it's like a caricature almost.
And then they go fuck.
Immediately Asa grabs him and pulls him inside, and he's like, oh god, like we're in trouble now, whatever, and like pulls him upstairs and throws him into his study and locks the door, and then immediately
Wonder what's gonna happen.
is so turned on by all of the things that just happened, because number one, Jude stood up for him and he called Philip out when like Asa was just like avoiding the whole thing and wanted nothing to do with any of it, and Jude like went to bat for him and just like tore Philip a new one and like was just there for him. He was gonna fuck him anyway, but he's like super turned on now.
He was
and
gonna
now,
at least wait until he got home.
he
but
was at least gonna
now-
wait until the end of the party.
No.
And the hilarious part too is that like there are other people walking out in the hallway that are probably like listening to this, and he's like, don't fucking care, don't give a shit, railing you right now.
Where's Philip? Hope he hears this.
Fuck Philip. Anyway, so then
Oh, he's stuck in
they
the
leave
pool
the
still.
party or whatever, and then they fuck some more in bed or whatever. And then when they're laying in bed that night, they're having like a lot of deep conversations and stuff. And this is where you get Jude's like full backstory about like the stuff at the farm, like at the university stuff, like the things with Sam, how his dad was injured, and then he took up modeling and then helped run the farm and everything. And then like like all of his like casual hookups and like from the failed relationships with the casual hookups to like avoiding relationships altogether sort of thing. And Asa like has the moment of like, damn it, like I can't stop what is going on right now.
Yeah.
But I don't want to see the end of it ever, sort of thing.
Freight train of love.
Definitely. And then Jude like concludes to like, because they only do casual hookup stuff. So it's like,
And this is why.
yeah, it's a whole thing. So then we fast forward another month, and when Billy's back in school, they're done their break or whatever. They're coming home from school one day, and Billy hears something in down an alleyway in a dumpster, and insists that Jude has to go look into it.
Investigate.
So Jude, in all of his glory and his lovely sneakers that Dylan bought him, and his designer parkas and stuff,
Birthday
yeah, they were, jumps into this dumpster that's filled with gross garbage and pulls out a puppy. And of course they have to keep this puppy. So they need to take it to a vet. And in the meantime, Asa comes to join them because he was getting a car for Jude because Jude has to like take Billy around to do stuff. And he's like, well, you need your own car. So he just straight up bought him cash money a Mini.
Yeah.
Which jealous, because I also want a red Mini with racing stripes down the middle. That'd be wild. I would love that.
What color racing
Actually,
stripes?
I would get a black Mini with
red
white.
racing stripes.
Well, probably with white actually. White or actually black on black would be really nice too.
What do you want to be part of the Italian job?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, so they take this dog
like matte on black
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah. So they take or super high gloss on regular. That would be okay too. So they take the dog to the vet, and because Billy is a hilarious child, he names the dog after the car salesman, which is Stanley Atkins.
Aww.
And so this girl puppy is named Stanley Atkins.
It's fantastic.
That's an adorable name.
I love it so much. And it reminds me of like your cats where they have like, I mean,
What?
they're named for, like they have namesakes, but like they're full names.
Yeah.
Like Clyde Jeffrey it's just funny. I love it.
Wesley Weaselface.
But his name's not actually Weaselface. That's what you call him.
Yeah.
This dog's name is Stanley Atkins.
Fair.
It's very funny. Yeah, so they get the dog, they take the dog home. They like have this adorable day-to-day stuff with the dog too about like, why is the dog in your bed? Like, put the dog back downstairs. And
Stanley Atkins, how did you get in here?
like dead ass
Legit.
Jacqueline, legit. That night, they're in Ace's room doing hanky-panky. I should backtrack that like part of the agreement was to keep all of their relations from Billy specifically because like
kids get attached.
well, and the kid is attached, but he doesn't
Already, yeah.
want him to know that they're romantically involved because he doesn't want to like set that expectation for him. But he is like in love with Asa is too, but Billy is like in love with Jude. Like he's just enamored with him.
He loves him.
He sure does. This night, Asa, like after they're doing their hanky panky
In front of the mirror.
in front of the mirror, hot. Again with the mirrors.
Lots of mirrors, yeah.
Listen, it's the way to go. Jude falls asleep in Ace's bed.
Yeah.
And he has every intent not to do that, but Ace is kind of like, just come on, you can stay here, whatever, and they cuddle and whatever. And so the next morning, Jude freaks because he's woken up to the sound of Billy knocking on his dad's door, on Ace's door. And the door's locked. And he's just like, Dad, why is the door locked? Like, like, you never lock your door. What's going on? And so Jude freaks because he's like, oh my God, like it's Billy. Like he's not supposed to know what we're doing and all this other stuff. And he gets like the super, super cold feet. This is supposed to be a fling.
Oh no, I caught
need
the
to
feels.
leave. I caught the feels. I need to leave. I'm panicking. We're getting into the third act breakup situation. But it's not even a breakup because they're not even dating. They're just seeing each other. And so we're getting into that we're building that crescendo to the end. Jude, in order to distance himself, he like goes off and talks to Dylan and Henry about this. And this was like a very weird scene to me.
The Sam at the park.
The thing at Sam, yeah. So they go over coffee. So Dylan and Henry meet up for coffee. They go for coffee. They walk through the park, and they're talking. So Henry is getting the backstory about Jude with his relationship with Sam, about like how Sam left him because of the commitments that he couldn't make, and how, like I can't be in this relationship with Asa because like I'm gonna have to drop everything at the drop of a hat and go deal with my family. Yeah. I'm just gonna have to do that. Like I'm going to let somebody down, and so I don't want to be in a relationship with somebody who I'm going to have to perpetually let down all the time. Yeah, and like I might have to miss something to do with Billy, and it's like I just don't like. It's just not an option to be in a relationship. I can't do that to somebody else. And so he gets super up in his feels about it. And of course, like Sam was a big component of that because that's literally why he quote unquote cheated on him. So as they're walking through the park or sitting in the park talking about this, Sam just like spies them at a distance and comes over to say hi.
Pops up. Which
is really fucking weird because I'm like, number one, it doesn't add anything to the story in my opinion because like, it's not even Jude. It's Dylan telling Sam off about him being a shit boyfriend and how he was terrible to Jude. And like, why couldn't you have a little bit of fucking empathy for your partner? And why couldn't you have helped him instead of pushing him away? Like there was just a slew of things. And it's just, anyway, the whole thing was kind of bonkers. And and the thing at the end of the day is that like, it didn't even persuade Jude in any way. He was still like, no, I'm not doing this. I won't be in a relationship. It's just not going to be a thing. After the conversation with Dylan and Henry, Jude goes home and with the intent to move out because like he got a call that morning saying his flat was going to be ready in a couple days. So he's just going to go to Dylan's for a couple days and then move back into his flat. And so in the meantime, Dylan had called Asa and told him about this. Of what transpired.
Meddling friends.
And so Asa comes out hot. As soon as Jude walks in the door, he confronts him and he's like, so this is it, you're leaving, is it? Like this is what's going on? And Jude's like, yeah, this was always supposed to be a fling. Like this was never supposed to be a relationship. And then Asa's like, yeah, but this is a fucking relationship. And like just calls him right out on all of his shit. And at the end, even Jude, he's just like, well, just fucking leave then. Like, just leave. Like, there's no, like, I'm not going to change your mind. Just get out of here. Jude fucks. and he is at Dylan's for a couple days, and he is a mopey man mope, and he is perpetually listening to sad music, and Dylan finally snaps.
And his friends bone.
I was just gonna say.
His friends are boning all the time. So Dylan finally snaps, and he opens the door to the place to the guest room where Jude is staying, and he shoves Gabe in, and he closed the door.
Which is super funny when you take into consider, like,
Who's Gabe?
His boyfriend.
So
Dylan and Gabe are together.
Oh, right. Okay.
So they're from book 1.
Yeah.
and it's funny because like you didn't read book 1, so like you're only getting Gabe from the little bits that you get him from this book, but like when you know his character from the first book, it's even funnier knowing that he just got shoved in there to be like, all right, go be emotional when he is.
And honestly, like the vibe I get from here, and even like he says it himself, he's like, I'm so uncomfortable with the emotions that's going on right now, but let's talk about this because I am Dylan's last ditch effort to get you to see reason.
Yeah, you know, if he sent me in here that he's desperate.
And so they have the conversation about like expectations in relationships and about how Asa is like, if something happened with Billy, he drops everything to deal with Billy. And why wouldn't he understand when you have to drop everything to deal with your family? It's the same thing. Yeah. And he talks Jude around to seeing reason in like a very logical way.
Way to go, lawyer guy.
Go, lawyer guy. And then they sort it all out. And of course, Jude is like, okay, I fucked up. And in the meantime, there's also Asa has the conversation with Peggy about needing to let Jude come to him after he sorts his shit out, and giving him the time and the space in order to understand what he is walking away from. And Asa does that. He gives him the time and the space. And Asa, of course, laments about like, I said some horrible shit. I was so rude and mean to him and told him to fucking leave. Like, what was I thinking? And Peggy's just like, I mean, you said what you had to say to him. And yeah, you might have been upset about it, but like, he needed that push in that direction. I think it's like later that day or even the next morning, Asa, like there's a big leak to the paper from Julian because Julian's fucking sour that Asa like bombed his party.
And fucked in his house.
And
didn't let him film it.
Yeah. And so Julian leaks the shit about Asa's ex being a drug addict because that was left out of the original information that Philip had leaked. And so when Jude hears about this, because I think Dylan brings it up to him, he freaks. He's just like, damage control. Let's go now. Like, I need to be there. I have to go help Asa. Like, this is going to blow up again. Like, we got to get Billy out and whatever, all this stuff. And so he and Dylan like do the espionage.
Oh, through the bushes.
Through the bushes out back. So like they like approach the house from the back, and there's like a back alleyway, and like Dylan helps lift Jude over the what's it called? The like the fence. Like it's a big brick fence with like vines and shit on it.
Amazing.
It's hilarious.
And so they do like the ops, and he gets him over the fence. And then Jude goes in through the back door, like through the back gate, and then back through the back door.
He does.
Yeah, he does. And like and shows up in the middle of the kitchen, and there's Amos like being depressed as he always is, and there's Peggy being like, oh my god, he came back, and there's Asa just like leaning over the table like, I can't believe you just came back. Like, just he's like in his feels about it. Of course. So
have these people never read romance books before?
Only historical romance.
Jeez.
Jude comes up with the idea this time because they can't fuck off to Spain anymore, or they're not going to. He's like, why don't I take Billy to my parents' house, which is like way out in the countryside, where like nobody knows about that. They're not going to come looking. Like they wouldn't even know about it. And they have the conversation back and forth, and Ace is like, you know what? I'm done with this bullshit. Let the press think whatever the fuck they want. I'm not doing any interviews. I'm coming with you. And so they all go down to Jude's parents' house. And of course his mother is just like, oh my god, she's the sweetest lady. She's just like she's so taken with Asa. Like,
Yeah.
just like, oh, he's so tall and handsome. And like, I am so happy that you found this man, and the way he looks at you and the way you look at him. And it's just like, oh my God, it's adorable. And fucking Billy, she like loves Billy. And like, these like are going to be his fucking grandparents. Like, holy shit. Because even Jude's dad, who's in a wheelchair, he's in a motorized wheelchair, is just like a fucking great dude.
He's a gem.
Solid gem. And like, jokes.
Even a dude in a wheelchair is amazing.
Solid gem. And he's like, he's just such a cool dude, and he's very chill with Asa too, and like they talk literary stuff, and like the way Asa interacts with him is like such a respectful thing. And like, there's no, because that's the one thing about Asa in general, is that he's a very down to earth, respectful person. Like, I think the way they cite is like, he'll have the person sitting there in like their high heels with their like cocktail dress or whatever at his table, sitting beside the plumber, having a conversation over dinner together. Like, just very normal. Like, everyone's at the same level at the same table.
People.
He does, and he's so like immersed with people too, and it's just great. And it's like, it's such a wonderful piece of character development, just to be like, he's a normal dude who just likes human beings. Yeah. Like, across the board, just enjoys human beings in general. I'm like, this is wonderful. So they stayed as parents for like a week or whatever. And at one point, there's like some shenanigans going on in the background, because like at one point Jude walks in and like they stop a conversation. Like, Asa and Jude's parents stop a conversation in the middle of what they're talking about. And he's like, what is going on?
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
And so Asa takes Jude. He's like, come with me. We're going to go in town for a bit.
Hey, Jude, come
and
with
so
me.
Asa takes Jude up to a house, and he like opens the door and lets him in. And they walk around, and he's like, Asa's describing the house to him and stuff. He's like, why are we home invasioning someone right now? What is going on? And he's also like, oh, this is a 10-minute walk from Dylan and Gabe's house. So this is the town they grew up in, and it's like they have like Gabe bought him for a engagement gift. I think it was a birthday gift or Christmas. It was a Christmas gift. He bought him a house in the town. Yeah. And it's a 10-minute walk from this house. And Asa is like, I want to buy this house. And Jude's like, why are you going to buy this house? That's crazy. He's like, well, I want it for all of us. I want all of us to live here, like you, me, and Billy. I want this to be our permanent residence. And like, well, he's like, I'll keep the London house, obviously, but like, we'll split our time between it. Well, that's the joke, is like, what color are we gonna paint it? He's like, it's staying the color it is. So they're gonna split their time between, like, when they have to be in London, they will, but when they're in the countryside, they're in the countryside. And that way, like, Billy can grow up in the same place Jude grew up, and it's fucking adorable and lovely and wholesome. And so they do that. They buy, like, he buys the house, and in the meantime, he also so part of the reason that his parents' debt was so bad was that, like, Jude's parents' debt were so bad, was that they had these super high interest loans and they couldn't make any headway on them. And so what Asa did was that Asa paid back the loans, but then the parents are going to be paying Asa back for the money. And it's basically
super smart.
Which is very smart, because basically what he's doing is just negating all of the high interest. And so they're just paying on the principal at this point.
Because Jude would have been mad at him if he had to just try to, like,
pay it all of it off. Whatever.
Like bulldoze it.
And interesting too, because part of it, because and that you do have this kind of moment where Jude is like, you're paying off these loans, you're buying this house, you're making all these huge money moves, and he's like, I can never I can't compete with that, and I can and Asa is like, you don't need to compete with anything. You being in my life gives me such immense joy and happiness. And there's no way I could ever put a price tag on that feeling that you give me. So, like, you are going to let me do these things for the joy of having you in my life.
Which is hot.
Which is adorable. And that's really, like, the end of the core story. And then we get into the epilogue. And the epilogue is, like, the happiest of happy endings, of course. It's just, like, Jude went back to school. Instead of finishing his master's degree, he went for like an education diploma, a 2-year one, so he could teach kindergarten. Yeah. Or year one, basically.
Gosh.
He's teaching at like one of the schools in the area. Billy is going to the school that he went to when he was a kid. Him and Dylan went to when they were kids. And despite it being in a small town, people are pretty welcoming about Billy having 2 dads, basically. The end of the epilogue is
the Father's Day.
Asa. No, it's Asa proposing to to Jude, but Billy is also there. That and at the same time, after Jude says yes to the proposal, Billy pulls out the papers to be like, Dad said I can give you these now.
Can you adopt
And they're adoption papers to adopt Billy.
I love that.
And it's the like, Dad said this is the best way that we can keep you if you say yes. And he's like, yeah, of course. And so anyway, they have like a cute little family. And that's it. That's the whole book.
The end.
So wholesome. Jacqueline, do you want to read some garbage now?
Oh, no, I just want to read the part where he asks to be adopted.
Okay, so this is like halfway through some hanky panky. I believe it's the one that happens during the party.
Going to get you ready, he mutters, and I moan, lowering my face down to the desk and stretching out. There's a pause before I feel his hands run down my back, rubbing gently over the sweat there until he reaches my backside and spreads the cheeks again. I expect some stretching, which is why I start and shout out as I feel the wet warmth of his tongue at my opening. I love to read these things. Fuck, I breathe out. That's fuck. Ugh. He chuckles and it sends shivers down my spine, and then his tongue flirts with my entrance, playing over the nerve-rich tissue and lapping at my whole fuck my life. I grind down on the desk, feeling my cock slide across its smooth surface, the unforgiving hardness welcome on my dick, which is pulsing and leaving a trail of wetness across the expensive wood. I have a split second of rejoicing at fucking up a piece of furniture belonging to Julian before all my thoughts scatter as Asa forces his tongue into my hole, sliding and slipping inside the sensitive rim, the scruff of his beard catching on the delicate tissues. I grunt lewdly and force myself back, fucking myself into his mouth. Then I still as he moves away. Where are you going? I whine, and he chuckles hoarsely. I'm going to get you ready so my massive cock doesn't hurt you, he says in a mock concerned voice, and I snort. Someone thinks a lot of, oh, fuck. My words die away as one long, lube-wet finger rubs slowly against my hole before slipping gently inside. For a second, the burn is harsh, but then he crooks his finger slightly, and I cry out as pleasure stampedes through my entire body. I arch up and writhe, and my moans grow louder as he slowly and meticulously adds another couple of fingers. Fine, I can't believe she just used the word meticulously. Finally, I feel a telltale tingle sliding silkily down my back. Stop, I whisper. I don't want to come without you. He levers back, and for a second he leans his head against my arse, his panting breaths hot and steamy. Then he moves back. Come and take it then, Jude. Ride my cock. I glance over my shoulder and groan deeply. Fuck, you look hot. He's sitting on the big leather office chair, his legs spread and his hand loosely fixed around his cock. His huge hairy balls, oh my goodness, his huge hairy balls rest almost obscenely against the white leather of the chair. Oh no. And his gaze is fixed on me, his cheeks flushed and sweat gleaming on his huge shoulders and the tight muscles of his abdomen. Come here, he commands hoarsely, and I obey as though I'm a marionette and he owns my strings. But I'm still me, and there's a large part of me who wants to own him back, to have him remember me and drive the thought of Philip so far out of his head he can't ever remember his name. So instead of straddling him as he obviously expects, I back up to him. Jude, he says hoarsely, and I shake my head, bending forward and separating the cheeks of my arse so he can see my slack hole. Fucking Jesus. He cries out.
Slack hole.
Gross.
He just cries out as I sit back and begin to rub his cock over my crease, coating it in the lube and saliva. His hands fly to my hips, grabbing me hard and directing my motions, and I know he's bruising me. I love it, and I pant harshly as I feel the head of his cock, huge and slick from the latex, bang against my rim. I look back, holding his gaze as I bend forward slightly. He looks hard at me to check I'm ready. I nod impatiently, and he obeys my unspoken command and grabs his cock, holding it steady as I lower myself onto him. I cry out at the first inch. He's not only big, but also wide, and the burn is like a fire in my blood. Ooh. Easy, he grunts. Take it easy, sweetheart. Go slow. But I can't because it feels too fucking good, and I shout as I relax and force his length steadily into me until I feel the bang of his heavy balls against me.
Hairy heavy balls.
Yeah, don't forget they're hairy too. He grabs my hips and we both pant out, sweat dripping down our bodies. Slow down, he says almost tenderly. Sorry, I said that like angrily. Slow down, he says almost tenderly.
Tenderly. Slow down, he says almost tenderly.
You put your name in that goblet.
It's tender when you beat it.
Did you put your name in the goblet of fire?
Dumbledore asks calmly. Slow down, he says almost tenderly. I've got you. Then he cries out as I start to move. I can't stop, I moan, as I start to undulate. Oh, nice. Undulate. I don't think I've ever seen that word in writing. Okay. I can't stop, I moan, as I start to undulate on him, moving up and down and back and forth in a sinuous rhythm. I can feel him like a steel pipe inside me, owning me, splitting me in two. Then he cants his hips and I yell out his name as he hits my prostate and sends showers of pyrotechnics through my body, under the skin. Right there, I say hoarsely. Fuck right there.
Jesus.
And suddenly he turned into a pirate.
Yar. Shiver me timbers.
Plunder my booty.
Yar, right there. Oh, his hands move ceaselessly on me, stroking my chest, grabbing my arms and pulling at my nipples to the soundtrack of grunts and moans. The air is heavy and dense with the scent of sweat and sex, and I inhale sharply before a stream of guttural cries fall from my lips. So gorgeous, he mutters, his voice thick and almost incomprehensible. Look at you on my cock. You're everything I thought you'd be and more. An urgency fills me and I start riding him harder, my legs trembling with the effort of holding my body in this position. I'm blind and deaf to everything now, apart from the need to come, and I send my hand down to where my cock bobs, blood red and oozing pre-cum, so it drips down and falls to the floor. Got to come, I moan.
Splat!
So fucking good. Asa, I've got to come now. Suddenly his hands are on my hips, holding me tightly, and I cry out as he stops me. Wait, he says urgently. I've got to see you. Turn around. Obeying his urging and holding my cock in a tight fist, I lift off him, grunting at the emptiness in my arse. He spins me around quickly and pulls me forward. Climb on, he whispers, arranging my body so I squat over him, my knees either side of his hips and digging into the sides of the chair. Yes, he groans as he holds his cock and I slide down it again. It's easy now. I'm open to him in all ways, my whole being focused on him as I begin to move. I want to close my eyes, but he grabs my face and gently shakes it. No, look at me, he whispers. Look into my eyes while I fuck you. I hold his gaze, and it's unbearably intimate, like nothing I've done before. I've never wanted to look another man in the eyes before. Just wanted to be done and come. Oh my God.
Broken.
I mean, who hasn't been there at least once or twice?
Oh. Now I focus on his stare, seeing how his pupils have bled out so his eyes appear to be black. There's something about his scrutiny, something real and warm and full of heat, and I catch my breath like I'm caught in a spell because I can't look away. I moan under my breath, and as if taking pity on me, he holds my hips still and begins to thrust up into me, the power and strength evident in every line of his large body. He's hitting my good spot constantly now, and I moan, breaking his gaze and throwing my head back. You're so fucking beautiful, he mutters. Every line of your body. I look down, but I can hardly see him. All of my attention is on those churning hips and the feel of him sliding into me. I need to come, I gasp out. Asa. His hands leave my hips, and he reaches in to grab my cock. Shit, the head's so sensitive, I gasp, and he grimaces, his teeth bared. Look at all this pre-cum, he mumbles. You're making a mess of me. He slides his big hand up and over the head of my cock quickly, the sound obscene in the silent room. Come on, he urges through gritted teeth. Ride my dick. Make me come. Make a mess all over me. I give out a shout and force my arse down fast, feeling the root of his cock as it stretches my anus, and I shiver all over as I go hot and cold while lightning rips through my groin. Coming! I shout. Coming! I shout. Fuck, I'm coming. I look down in time to see thick stripes of cum splashing his tanned, hairy torso and his hand milking the final drops from my shaft. Then as I collapse onto him, he lets go of my cock, seizes my hips and roars, and I feel heat inside of me as he pours his cum into the condom. For several long minutes we sit still, judders echoing through our bodies and occasionally shuddering with aftershocks. Finally, I stir. Do you think they'll notice if we go for a dip in the pool and cool off? It's strange and lovely to sit on him, still stuffed full of his cock, and feel the laughter rumble through me like a faraway thunder on a still summer's night.
Thanks for that, Jack.
Wow.
You seem very enthralled. I put in my notes. I don't know if it's in your notes. This is a very British book.
You did, yeah.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of British nomenclature that you don't get in typical romance novels that we usually read. And I think there's a bit of, I'd say Lily Morton has a fondness of like historical romance. So like you get a bit of the vibe maybe with some of the wording. But anyway, so that was that. And there's a lot of anus and hole and arse, which is arse is very funny because
arse
like
sort of takes you out of it.
It does. Well, because like arse, especially Nova Scotia, like arse is such a
don't be an arse.
like don't be an arse.
Yeah, it's
like
such a silly word.
Well, and it's in our vocabulary as like a description for somebody, not an object.
Yeah, like I don't really call it my arse. Well,
I
maybe I
would.
would.
Well,
my arse is hanging out of my
Yeah,
pants.
like you would use it.
Like
yeah, you would never use it in a sexy way.
No, get your arse over here.
Yeah, like
and let me come inside it.
Definitely the opposite vibe every time. So reading it, it's just like off-putting.
Get your arse over here and let me come inside it. You have to see the look on her face as she says it too. I think that's what makes it.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we've come to the rating portion. Does anyone have opinions on what we should rate this book on?
Stanley
Atkins?
Big hairy balls on white leather chairs.
Again, the hairy balls. Like, oh god.
I know, but like
memories of Tidal Wave. Like, honestly, I was just like, ugh.
But you know what? I also loved it a bit. Like,
you like hairy balls?
No, well, I mean,
Like, do you find that hot? Like that section? Because that doesn't do it for me.
Well, admittedly, how many of the fucking sections that we've had you read over the 53 books have you been like, that was hot?
Well, some of them are hot, though.
Like objectively hot.
Like fucking Candy Cane Dick Krampus. You thought that was hot?
No, not that one.
She said some of them.
Some. Like what?
Don't yuck my yum, Ashton.
I'm not.
What was our last book? That one was pretty hot, wasn't it?
Oh, Dealmaker.
This is
The
they
Deal.
They were masturbating together. Like that's hot enough.
It was also funny because she called him dude.
Yeah.
But also you have to you also have to look at it like, what kind of porn do you watch?
Well, and who's this book for?
Yeah.
Like, realistically.
Like,
And what are those answers?
They're rhetorical, potentially. But anyways, Stanley
Voting on.
Atkins, is that what we're reading this on? There's only 2 in the book.
There's the dog and
There's
a car.
the dog and a car salesman.
well, we need more than 2 Stanley
We
Atkins.
do need more than 2 Stanley Atkins.
What if the dog has puppies?
Pink poos. Number of pink poos.
There's only 1 pink poo.
We could make more. We could.
Who had pink poo?
It was the password to get in the house.
Oh!
That's the very first.
Oh my goodness.
Somebody needs some Pepto-Bismol.
Ew.
Why does the number have to make sense to a number of them? We've judged it on like pumpkin spice lattes and like fucking other stuff that.
I mean, even that part was kind of hot when she's like fucking a pumpkin spice latte.
That was
we did not read that book
Oh,
on. That's the
right.
pumpkin spice sexuals. We
my
didn't read
God,
that.
that
I read
was-
that to you in private.
Yeah.
That was not podcast material.
Y'all should read that.
Or don't like.
It's pretty funny.
It's brief.
Rachel read it, so we didn't have to.
I read it to you, so you didn't have to. It's brief. That's all I'm gonna say about it. Yeah, fuck it. Stanley Atkins. Let's rate it on. Call it 6. Stanley Atkins. Fuck him.
There we go.
6.
Let's not fuck them.
I metaphorically. Yeah, Jack. What do you think?
The look on
How
her
off-putting are you? Were you okay? Now, did your opinion change from my description to when you read it? Like, are the vibes off?
I don't really know.
Was it the hairy balls that did it for
I mean,
you?
I don't love the idea of a white leather chair either, to be honest.
The white leather
Totally
chairs that
fair.
did it for you.
Totally. I mean, I'm not into white leather. It's just not my jam.
Although I do think it's funny that he enjoyed, like, running his dick along a piece of expensive furniture
That belonged
Someone
to Julian
else's
specifically
house.
because
Yeah.
Julian's a piece of shit. So
Exactly.
like, yeah. This is like it's funny because you're getting a tiny bit of insight into like Jude's humor.
Yeah,
He's just a normal he's just a dude.
seems kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. How many?
6. It can be a mix of dogs and car salesmen.
I kind of forget what the whole book was about after having read that.
It was about hairy balls.
Let's sum it up to hairy balls.
I'm going to give it...
Are you trying to have a shit? What are you doing?
Are you trying to pass some hairy balls?
No.
Are you picturing them slapping against you?
I might be. Like, the hairy balls are in my brain now. On a leather chair. Like,
White leather
white
chair.
leather chair.
Hairy balls.
I imagine it has, like, a really high back as well.
Okay, but alternatively, like, how many like completely smooth balls have you like dealt with? No, manscape 100%. I'm just saying I don't feel like her husband does.
I just, like, I'm not a big...
Bucket nuts under the bus. Jesus.
2.
2 Stanley Atkins?
Yeah.
Like the OG 1 car salesman, 1 dog?
No.
no.
No, not the OGs. Imposters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Buster Atkins.
Thanks. Ash, what do you got?
They both have big hairy balls.
I feel like if they both have big hairy balls, then that's easily a 4.
1 for each ball. Out of 6.
5.
Solid 5.
Yeah, it wasn't perfect. Well, see, this is another one. I can't think of anything I really found wrong with it, though. I just hate throwing out perfects.
I mean, here's the thing. When you know, you know. Like, when it's perfect, it's perfect.
Was the story even really fun? Like, I don't know.
I like the story, but I'm a whore for like a single dad romance.
He was awfully cute with that Billy kid.
Yeah.
And you're getting a summary. So, like,
True. A summary, plus I had to read that.
big hairy
5
balls.
and a half.
Okay. What's a half Stanley Atkins look like to you?
The dog's got a little cart.
Oh, but
I
that
love that
makes
for you.
it better.
You're not wrong. But it is still half.
The man only has 1 ball.
And he rides a Segway to work at the car dealership.
Amazing.
Yeah, 5.5. It was like, it wasn't perfect because it doesn't give me that like, oh, that was a perfect read. But I can't think of anything that's like glaringly wrong that would make me like vote less. And having read the first and the third, I like this. I really like this series. I also really like her writing. So maybe 6.
Either way, it's hard.
I really like her writing. Like, I think it's smart, but it's not difficult. And I find the smut sexy. So,
And honestly, like, there's only like 3 scenes in this entire book.
yeah.
And so, like, yeah, that was a filthy scene that you just read, but like, it's rare.
Yeah, and it was a fun, filthy scene though. Like, revenge fucking.
It was revenge fucking.
Yeah, yeah. I changed my answer. I vote 6.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with 6.
I forgot I had to say undulate.
Undulate's a good word.
I'm going to give it a bonus ball for that.
That's legit.
Bonus ball, not Stanley Atkins.
Just one ball.
Just a ball.
I have to give this a 5, I think. I enjoyed this book. I really liked Lily's writing. There was a few parts in it that were like, and again, where I read this book twice and I read it very recently. Like, I think I finished this like 2 days ago or something. There were a few weird, off-putting things meant, like, again, coming to the throwaway comment about the bisexuality thing. And there's like, there's a few inconsistencies here and there. And just like, I don't know, there was just a general vibe of like it's not a perfect book. That's not to say it's not damn near. So like 5, it has to be a 5. And I love, like, the way she wrote Billy is just amazing, and I'm so impressed with that. And like, it's so lighthearted that like it every so often you get into this really heavy shit of like the back trauma and like even like Billy's beginning of his life and all this stuff, and then you get pulled out of it because this kid said something weird, or like is playing with his Spider-Man toy, or like is pretending to be a dinosaur,
or is just a kid,
or is just being a kid. And
you
so like,
love Billy. It's
cute.
He's
a great kid. And like the way that he's written, it's like, it's just so charming. And like, that is an interesting balance when you put it beside the adult grown up bullshit that's going on here, and then pair that with like the relationship that Jude has with his parents that's so fucking wholesome, that he's so fucking broken over. Yeah, it has a lot of depth. It's a really good book. But yeah, there's something off about it that doesn't make me want to rate it perfect. I don't know what that. I don't think I can put my finger on it completely. But just amazing read. And like Lily Morton, I will go back and read the other 2 books. Especially I want to read Henry's book. I really do. The 3rd one.
So good.
Yeah, so like I'll definitely go back and read those 2, I think, which I've got a lot of shit to read now, but as you know, to be expected. But yeah, that being said, I mean, happy Father's Day. I don't have another book to read because my brain has melted this week.
Get yourself a white leather chair, Dad.
Ew.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Do you have something else you'd like to talk about, Ashton?
I'm just trying to think of what I've read lately.
You know what? It's very funny too, because like I did not read any other Father's Day books. You brought this one to my attention. I read it, and I'm like, that's the one. We're doing this one.
Oh, there's a series that I read a while back. It's called the Extracurricular Activities series by Nav Wilder. It is ridiculously smutty and delightful. The 4th book just came out. It's called Teach Me. 2 strangers, 1 secret encounter, a whole lot of forbidden chemistry. It was supposed to be an anonymous thrill, fueled by raw desire. No strings, just an escape we both craved. The last thing I need is complications, especially from a casual hookup. That was the plan, except now he's not just some guy from a night I can't forget. He's in front of my class, teaching it. Turns out life has some unexpected lessons in store for me, and my professor is holding the syllabus. Suddenly, what was supposed to be simple is anything but. Our connection is too intense, and the stakes are way too high. His career, my recovery, our futures. Every class is a battle against temptation. Every glance a spark threatening to ignite. We know it's reckless, yet the magnetic pull between us is irresistible. I'm not just battling the ghosts of my past, but also the fear that everything I've worked so hard to rebuild might crumble. He has everything to lose, and so do I. But when surrender feels right, walking away becomes the toughest of all. And so they meet at a glory hole.
Amazing.
That's how the book starts.
You love to see it.
The main character is at a bar. You were introduced to him in the other books. He kind of went off the rails, ended up in rehab, whatever. Anyway, yeah. So he's at a bar and he's like staring at, and like literally he's talking about like the logistics of the glory hole and like, did somebody come in with a saw? Did the person who put the bar in, did they create the glory hole? Where'd the glory hole come from? And then
those are all great questions.
Legit. And so then this guy comes in to the stall next to him and he's like, and then he just sticks his fingers through and goes and like quirks them, and Buddy's like, and sticks his penis through.
I was gonna say people can't see you motioning.
I know, but he sticks his penis through. And like, but it's also not like, it's also smart in that he thinks to put a condom on it. Like, it's like, he's not being careless about it, but then he's like,
it's a glory hole in the bathroom in a bar.
But does this responsibly.
but it's a glory hole. And then like they go back and they do it again.
Gloriously responsible.
His friend calls it a howdy hole because it's like saying hi to your penis.
Okay.
It's delightful.
Howdy hole.
So he goes back the next night, or not the next night. He goes back again, and he's like, "I'd know that dick anywhere," kind of thing. And they're like, he's like, "No, really, I'd know that dick." So they do it again, only more reciprocal. And then the other guy is like, "Here's a number," so that they can text to correlate, like when they want to do if they want to do this again, so that it's and it's his teacher, his university professor. Mm-hmm. And it's just...
So when do they see each other?
Like, they don't even get to do it again after texting because he's waiting to talk to the teacher about something, and he's, like, waiting. So he, like, fires off a text, and he watches his professor pull out his phone. And he's like, wait, what?
I like that. Okay.
And then he disappears, and he goes to his office hours, and he's like, so I was texting you, and the teacher's like, no, you weren't. And he's like, yeah. And like, they've been the teacher and his friend had been going, who's a lawyer, had been going to like
the glory hole bar.
No. Where the guy like serves anyway, it's a whole thing. It's honestly, the series is so smutty. The first book is like they're roommates, and one of the roommates walks in on the other guy like fingering his ass, and he's like, yep.
Is there like
You're
a little
welcome.
step stool or anything? Like, how high up is
the
this
glory hole?
Glory hole, yeah.
I don't know how high up the glory hole. There's no instructions. There's no pictures.
Have you ever seen one?
Do you want me to draw you a diagram?
I've never been in a male bathroom where there might be a glory hole. No.
Well, I mean, maybe like porn or something.
We'll talk about it later. Thanks for sharing, Ash. Who was the author again?
Oh,
I hope they sand it too.
That's the thought he had.
Yeah,
because it's smooth.
Yeah, and you gotta make sure you weather strip it.
Yeah, so you don't want to get
jagged edges.
Yeah. Oh,
exactly.
Yeah. These are all thoughts he had. It's Teach Me by Nev Wilder, and it's the extracurricular activities series. It's book 4.
Wonderful.
Delightful.
Thank you.
Have you read
Ash.
the other ones?
Yes.
Okay.
This one just came out, you said?
This one just came out. There's
Amazing.
one where Buddy has an OnlyFans account, and all of them are worth reading. The
Nice.
OnlyFans one
Are
is
they kind of
hilarious.
short, or are they...
They're not long.
Okay.
There would be like maybe 300 pages.
Okay, like normal size book.
Yeah, average size book. The one with the OnlyFans is hilarious because like the friend is watching the OnlyFans, and then he recognizes the bathroom that he was in because they're at like an event or something together. It is chef's, and then he starts helping him. And then you get the demi wrap, and like, oh, it's just, it's good.
Wonderful.
100%.
Thank you for that. Jack, do you have anything related to talk to?
No.
No glory holes you want to talk about?
No.
We'll talk. Well, we'll talk about glory holes after this.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll have some more information about glory holes.
Excellent.
Wonderful. Speaking of next time, we're back with Christmas in July.
Ooh.
And we are reading A Merry Little Meet Cute by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone. Sierra you will recognize from the Priest series, Swoon. So that's Christmas in July, A Merry Little Meet Cute. You can get that on the Kindles. I picked it up at my local bookstore because it's a thing that they just have. Because
It's the books. Who'd have thought it?
well, like Sarah Simone, as you mentioned before, is like fairly prolific, and so her books end up everywhere. And so
Indigo.
go and pick it up at your local bookstore, and we will talk to you guys next time in July. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Queens of Spice podcast. You'll find us on Instagram and Twitter at Queens of Spice, or if you want to send us an email, you can reach us at queensofspice@gmail.com.